Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into Educated, the memoir by Tara Westover.
It's an incredible story.
It is, and it's about a lot more than just, kind of growing up.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about family and what you believe and just how powerful education can be.
Right, and how much it can change you.
So we're going to break down the big ideas in the book,
Definitely.
but more importantly, we'll talk about how we can use those ideas.
Yeah, in our own lives, that's the important part.
Exactly. So to get started, Tara's childhood was definitely not what most people would call normal.
That's putting it mildly.
Right. I mean, her dad just didn't trust the government at all.
No, not one bit.
Or regular schools, hospitals, anything like that.
They were pretty much isolated from the rest of the world.
And they were always preparing to, run for the hills, literally.
Yeah, if the government ever came after them.
Which is pretty scary to think about.
It is, and it makes you wonder how much those beliefs shaped Tara's whole view of the world.
Right. And then there's the whole thing with modern medicine being off limits.
Oh, yeah, that part was tough to read.
Like when her mom got hurt really badly in that accident.
And they just treated her at home. No doctors or anything.
It's like, how far can your beliefs go before they actually put you or someone else in danger?
That's a big question the book makes you think about.
But even with all that going on, Tara starts to kind of wake up to a different reality.
Like she's sensing there's something more out there.
Music was a big part of that, especially her brother Tyler's love for it.
It's interesting how something so simple can make you question everything you've been taught.
Totally. And for Tara, music opened a door to a world outside of her dad's control.
It showed her there was a whole other way of looking at things.
And then Tyler deciding to go to college, even though their dad was against it, was a major turning point.
That was huge.
It's like he gave Tara permission to want something different for herself.
To believe in the power of education, even though she'd never experienced it.
And her journey to actually get that education is incredible. I mean, teaching yourself algebra while working in a junkyard, that takes serious dedication.
It shows how much she wanted it, how much she was willing to fight for it.
And then trying to take the ACT without ever going to a real school.
It makes you realize that we all face hurdles, but we can overcome them if we're determined enough.
It's that resilience thing, right?
Right.
Never giving up on what you want.
Exactly. But let's be real, it's not always easy to change your thinking, to let go of those deeply held beliefs.
Oh, absolutely.
It can be scary, especially when it means going against what your family or community believes.
Yeah, like when Tara starts taking those dance classes and her dad is furious about her costume.
That was a big clash, her growing independence versus her family's expectations.
And it makes you think, how do we balance personal growth with staying true to our families?
It's a tough one, and it's something a lot of people struggle with.
I think a big part of it is learning to question those truths we've always accepted without really thinking about them.
Yeah, to look at things with a critical eye, to be open to different perspectives.
So basically, we should all channel our inner Tara and be more willing to question everything we think we know.
Exactly. Education is about more than just facts. It's about expanding your world, thinking critically, and becoming who you're meant to be.
Okay, so we've talked about how unusual Tara's childhood was and how important education became to her.
And how tough it was to break free from those ingrained beliefs.
But as you know, things get a lot more complicated and, well, a lot darker from here.
Yeah, the family dynamics start to unravel, especially with her brother Sean's behavior.
We'll definitely be getting into that next time.
It's a tough part of the story, but it's important to understand the full picture.
For sure. So stay tuned.
We'll be right back. So we left off talking about how things were getting more intense in the family.
Yeah, it was getting pretty hard to ignore.
Especially with Sean.
It's just heartbreaking to read about how his behavior gets worse and worse.
So violent.
Yeah, and it seems like no one wants to really deal with it.
The whole family is kind of stuck in this pattern.
And it makes you wonder, how do you balance love for your family
Right.
with, needing to be safe?
Sometimes those two things, they just clash.
And it's not even just physical abuse, right?
No, there's all the manipulation, the gaslighting.
Yeah, that part was just so messed up.
Like they're constantly telling Tara her memories are wrong, that she's making stuff up.
It's crazy making. How do you even know what's real anymore?
Exactly, and that's the whole point of gaslighting, to make someone doubt themselves.
I still can't get over that scene where Sean shoves her head into the toilet.
Oh, God. Yeah.
It's just so brutal, and it shows how powerless she felt.
It's all about power,
Yeah.
Sean trying to control her, the family not doing anything to stop it.
And that silence, it just allows the abuse to keep going.
That's how it always is.
But then Tara finally reaches out for help outside the family.
That was a turning point for sure.
She talks to a therapist and a bishop, Even though it's not a lot, it's something.
Yeah, it's a start.
And it shows how important it is to find support outside of your own family.
You don't have to go through tough stuff alone.
Exactly. You need people who can actually listen to you and believe you.
And that's when Tara starts to find her own voice, to push back against all the lies.
She's realizing that what happened to her was real, that she didn't deserve it.
It's like she's finally allowed to have her own truth.
Right. And therapy can be so helpful for that, to process the trauma and figure out healthy ways to cope.
It's all about learning to see things differently, to break free from those negative thought patterns.
But even though Tara is finding her strength, the past is still pulling at her.
Yeah, she wants to reconnect with her family.
But their versions of reality are just so different.
It's like they're speaking different languages.
That Thanksgiving dinner scene, where she tries to tell them about Sean's abuse.
Oh man, that was rough.
It's so clear how much she wants them to understand.
But they're just not hearing it.
And it made me think about how hard it is to communicate when people have such different beliefs.
Especially when those beliefs are so deeply rooted.
Like with Tara's dad and all his conspiracy theories.
Right. He's just so convinced that he's right.
It's tough because how do you have a relationship with someone who sees the world so differently?
It's a challenge a lot of people are facing these days with all the division and misinformation out there.
And sometimes I guess you just have to step back to protect yourself.
Yeah, you can't force someone to change their mind.
But doesn't mean you stop caring, right?
No, not at all. It's just about setting boundaries, taking care of yourself.
That line in the book where Tara says, you can love someone and still choose to say goodbye to them, really stuck with me.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Because it acknowledges how complicated relationships can be, especially with family.
It's not always about black and white, right or wrong.
Sometimes it's about choosing what's best for you, even if it hurts.
It's about finding your own path.
So even though this part of the story is pretty heavy,
It definitely is.
there's also this sense of Tara's strength and resilience shining through.
She's starting to build a life outside of her family's influence.
And education becomes her way to really break free.
That's where the book gets really inspiring.
Right. Because it shows that knowledge can be a powerful tool for change.
It can help you escape from limiting beliefs, from a past that's holding you back.
And we'll talk more about that in the next part.
Definitely. We'll see how Tara takes all that she's learned and creates a new life for herself. It's amazing to see how she takes everything she's been through and turns it into something positive.
Totally. But it's easy to forget, when you're caught up in everyday life, that learning never really stops.
It shouldn't, right?
Right. And educated really reminds you that learning can be so powerful.
It can change your whole life.
It can make you feel free, like you can be whoever you want to be.
And it's not just about going to school or getting a degree.
No, definitely not.
It's about always being curious, wanting to discover new things.
Trying to see things from different angles.
Exactly. And being open to maybe changing your mind about something.
One thing that really hit me in the book is how Tara realizes, even with all her efforts,
Yeah.
that sometimes you just can't make people see things your way.
It's tough to accept that, right?
It is, especially when it's your family.
You want them to understand, to support you.
But like you said before, sometimes the best you can do is just agree to disagree.
And walk away knowing you tried your best.
Do you remember that part where Tara finds out her family's been reading your emails?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was rough.
It's like such a violation of her privacy.
Totally. And it shows how even in families, you need boundaries,
You have to respect each other's space.
Everyone needs to feel safe and their thoughts matter.
It made me think about how hard it can be to balance loyalty to your family
Right.
with the need to protect yourself, your own well-being.
It's a tough line to walk, for sure.
And the book doesn't really tell you what the right answer is.
It's more about asking the questions, making you think about it.
But I think it does show how important it is to be aware of your own needs, to know when to step back,
To have the courage to make choices that are right for you.
even if those choices are hard or make other people unhappy.
That's the self-preservation thing we talked about before.
Right, putting yourself first sometimes.
It's not selfish, it's necessary.
And sometimes, like Tara says in the book, saying goodbye is the most loving thing you can do.
For yourself and for the other person?
So, yeah, this part of the story is tough,
It is.
but it's also about growth and healing.
Tara's figuring out who she is, what she believes.
And education plays such a big role in that.
It helps her break free from the past, from all those limits.
It gives her a chance to create a whole new life.
And that's inspiring to see how knowledge can be so liberating.
It reminds you that you have the power to choose your own path.
To define your own success.
So to wrap things up, I think the big lesson from Educated is that we all have a choice
We do.
to stay stuck or to learn and grow.
To be open to new ideas and to challenge the things we think we know.
And to remember that education doesn't end when you finish school.
It's a lifelong journey.
If you're looking for more amazing stories and want to keep learning, definitely check out the One Book a Day YouTube channel.
It's a great community for book lovers.
And of course, if you haven't read Educated yet, we highly recommend it. There's a link to buy it on Amazon in the episode description.
It's a book that will stay with you long after you finish it.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone.